Now, let's look closely at a busy election cycle across three main states: Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan, with major primaries, redistricting impacts, and a closely watched special election. I'm joined here by the Center Square, JD Davidson, to tell us a little bit more about these elections. JD, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Hi, Esther. It's good to see you.
Yeah, so first starting off with the state of Ohio, I think it'd be great to look at what's been going on there, what are the key takeaways, and especially with this new congressional maps redistricting, how is this shaping up when it comes to the House, the Senate, and the governor's race?
So, in Ohio, things were actually anticlimactic. Now, Republicans have gerrymandered for the fourth time in 2 years, at least one district in Northwest Ohio that they think they have a shot at turning Republican. But as far as the primary goes, there weren't significant challenges in any race, whether it was a statewide race, the governor's race, or any of the House or Senate races at all. Now, that's changed. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, things were a little different. Primary races were significant. There weren't many challenges in the general election. In November, there's going to be some significant challenges. The governor's race is going to be tight, surprisingly tight. Um, there have been polls the last month or so that say Ohio is turning from red to purple, which is interesting. So November will be really close in the state.
Yeah, and especially with the governor's race, we saw President Donald Trump actually endorse and support previous presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. What does that look like when it comes to, endorsement support, especially from the president of the United States, while at the same time, he's facing against the Democratic candidate for governor, Amy Acton? What does that influence look like? And is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Since you're
It's
saying that
it's
the state is
dwindling.
kind of changing.
Yeah, it's really dwindling. And Vivek Ramaswamy he's ran into some struggles along the way. He wants to eliminate some major state universities, and there were some other issues that he's kind of erroneously come out on and didn't realize things were fake. So his support has dwindled, and with the economic situation in this state over the last year and a half, what went from, I think, initially between him and Dr. Acton, he had a 15 to 20 point lead. Some polls have it dead even right now. Others have Ramaswamy with maybe and only a 1 or 2 point lead within the margin of error. So it'll get tight. I have seen uh, Trump's influence wane some in Ohio, which has been surprising. But by the time we get to November, things could all change again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Finally, within the state of Ohio, we're looking at a potential new tax proposal. Could you break that down for us and tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, it's the biggest thing that happened yesterday in the primaries were an overwhelming amount of tax levies on the ballot, local tax levies, which are extremely difficult to track. In one county alone, you could have 10 or 12 of those. But school districts have moved away from a proper, because there's such an issue with property taxes in Ohio and everywhere else across the country. And then there's a movement on to possibly get a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November that would eliminate property taxes completely in the state. School districts have moved to income taxes. There were, I think, 10% of the school districts in the state had income tax levies on the ballot, and only a handful passed yesterday. It To me, it's another sign of a year and a half of just a crumbling economy in the state, as well as traditional thinking of distrust in public schools, and especially the way public schools spend money. In my little town that I live in, there was an income tax levy on the ballot, and there were issues that in the last 8 years, their budget has grown by $10 million. Their enrollment has declined by 400 people. It's it's difficult for people to kind of grasp, and also for school administrators to explain, if you don't have as many kids, why are you spending more money?
Mm. Yeah, definitely a direct impact on the taxpayer. So we'll definitely keep a close eye on Ohio. Now switching over to the state of Indiana, because we got to get through all of these. Turning to Indiana, what are the main takeaways there? What are the different districts at play within the election cycle?
Yeah, again, Indiana wasn't so much a congressional primaries, although there were a couple challenges, but incumbents won. Indiana was more interesting because that state, the Republicans in that state, stood up against Trump, who had pushed Republican states to gerrymander or to rig their districts to get more Republicans in Congress. Indiana's Senate said no, that they weren't going to do it. So Trump endorsed seven different lawmakers in an effort to move out seven people that voted against his push to gerrymander. And five of those seven beat incumbents. And the other two, one won by only 3 votes, and the other one, as of this morning, that race was too close to call. So that was interesting, where Trump's influence played a role in moving those incumbents out who voted against rigging districts. And what will be interesting to see in November is if the Democrats actually make gains in those districts because of the heavy Trump influence.
Yeah, speaking of the differing party lines, especially like you said, with the Republicans' reaction to President Trump's initiatives and policies, switching over to the state of Michigan, I thought that was really
Yeah.
interesting to hear various responses from voters. I think starting off, within Michigan, there was a special election. Tell us more about that and where voters are standing in that state.
Yeah, that one was a big deal, and it's just a little district. So Michigan has Democrats have the governorship, and they have the Senate by one. And there's been a seat held open for it's been a long time, but Governor Whitmer finally called the special election for it yesterday. And Republicans thought they could take that seat and then be able to control both the House and the Senate. But Democrats won it easily by 10 points. And what was interesting about that was Vice President Kamala Harris only won that district by 1 point in 2024. And now the Democrats win that district by 10 yesterday. And that seemed to fall in line with what we're seeing in other areas around the country, where Trump performed very well in the 2024 election. And in some of these districts, Democrats are making gains again. And that could be critical, both for the midterms and then in 2028.
Yeah, and based on those results alone, what are you seeing from these states, and even maybe just on a national level? How are voters responding, and how this will impact, the upcoming election in November? What's going on? It seems like, yeah, exactly. You said 10% more than the former Vice President
Yeah.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
What's
So
what's going on?
it I mean, it's not a secret. It's been this way since Reagan in 1980. I can go back a little farther than that, but the economy drives voters. And if the economy is bad, which since Trump took office, he has consistently done things that raised consumer prices, bottomed out the economy, and now, especially in the Midwest, where gas prices have hit $5 a gallon in Ohio, closing in on $5 a gallon in Michigan and Indiana. Wisconsin's the same way. Gas prices are higher now in Ohio than they've been in 4 years. So as the economy continues to fall and fall and fall, it's gonna if Democrats can take advantage of that, they've got a chance to make some gains. The It's easy to sit on the outside to Monday morning quarterback, or to be the couch coach and figure out, hey, you got to do this and you can win, or you got to do that. It's hard to tell what direction both parties are going to go when we get closer to November in terms of messaging, but it's not hard to figure out. The only thing that really matters to voters is their pocketbook, is how much they're spending. And I mean, time will tell if either party can get footholds into that.
Yeah, a lot happening across the state, across the country, definitely impacting voters and taxpayers. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. JD, thanks so much for joining us. This is the Center Square's reporter, JD Davidson. You can follow more of his stories and other stories like that, especially with the election season coming up, at thecentersquare.com.